If you're tired of how you feel, tired of how you look, tired of your job, or just being tired of being tired, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to find your passion in life and take back your health and regain control of your life. This is the David A. Specht Show. Now, here's David.
That's right. You have tuned in to the hippest, hoppest, whatever radio voice thing I can do for a podcast, the David A. Specht Show. So glad you're tuning in today. So glad that you're a part of the family, whether you're on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, or any of the other hosts of podcast services out there. Of course, I'm your host, David A. Specht. And if you don't know me, and hopefully you do, if this isn't your first visit to the podcast, I am a certified health coach. I am a newspaper guy, and I lost 125 pounds in the year 2018, and wanted to share the insights from both my vocation and that accomplishment with the world. Hopefully the podcast has been a blessing to you, as it has been a blessing to me to share. And quite frankly, it has been just amazing, the response that has been coming up from that people that I know that have listened to the podcast. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Topic today: where is your head at? Where is your head at? A lot of people talk about mindset being everything and how mindset really affects where we are and what we do. And that is so very true. I can remember, as I was getting ready to enter this health journey, I had to get my mind right. I had to get things right upstairs before any of the rest of it would take place. And we'll get a little bit into that a little bit later in the podcast. But I want to just share with you some things that maybe will help you get your head right before you enter anything. And it doesn't just have to be about weight loss. It doesn't just have to be about health. In everything in our life, before we embark on a new journey, we got to get our head right first. And did you know that the military often uses psychological, how should I put this? It's not warfare because they're on the same team, psychological tests to see if a new recruit is ready for the task ahead of them before basic training. And I was the victim of said test. Let me explain. I went into the Air Force in February of 1988. Yes, boys and girls, David is that old. And in 1988, when I headed for basic training, we got to Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio. And I remember after a long day, after being left alone in a big room for the longest time, the drill instructor, or should I say the technical instructor, they called them TIs in the Air Force, came out and said, if any of you, and I won't use the same language that he used, but if any of you don't believe this is for you, that you have made a mistake and you want to be a puking civilian again, come into my office. Now remember, this has been after a long day of traveling, a long day I've been yelled at, just things just seeming right. And I'm going to tell you, this boy felt he made the biggest mistake of his life and decided he wanted to be a puking civilian again in the moment. Oh, what a mistake. Oh, what a mistake. Not only was not released from my obligations that I had signed on the dotted line for, but I had then placed a target on myself for the remainder of my basic training, and they rode me, and they rode me, and they rode me. You want to know why? Because I wasn't mindset ready. I was not ready to handle what it required to become an airman. I wasn't ready to handle the tasks ahead of me because I had a low threshold of, you can call it pain, you can call it frustration. I had a low threshold in general. And I revealed that during that moment. And so they knew that in order for me to become what they needed me to be, and for them to be able to remember, we're talking about working on aircraft. We're talking about working on, pieces of equipment that cost millions upon millions of dollars, and they can't afford somebody who's not mindset ready. to be responsible for that equipment, for that aircraft or whatever. And so they knew that they had a 6-week time frame to get me mindset ready to be able to be trustworthy in that endeavor. And I didn't know it at the time. I've since I've looked back, hindsight is 2020. Looking back on that moment, I realized exactly what they were doing and exactly why they did it. So how does this translate into mindset today? Well, let me ask you a question. Can you afford a heart surgery? Can you afford a heart surgery? Average single bypass in the United States of America, according to the Google searching that I did just before during show prep, about 40 grand. Can you write a check for 40 grand? What if you have multiple bypasses? Can you write a check for multiple 40 grands? Because here's the deal. When you don't need a heart surgery, you can't afford a heart surgery. But when you do, when a doctor comes in and says, you need this heart surgery or you will die soon, all of a sudden you can find the resources to pay for a heart surgery. You don't know, sometimes you don't know where it's going to come from. Sometimes you don't know where it's going to take place or how you're going to do it. But you know that, guess what? If I don't do this, I will die. And so you go through with the heart surgery and you figure out how to pay off everything, even if it takes you the rest of your days to do so. It's amazing how our mindset shifts based upon the circumstances around us and how getting our mind right will change so much in how we approach things in this life. Now, my friend Butch Bellum went through a heart surgery, and he told me a very similar story to this. And I remember him saying, David, there was absolutely no way. He said, and it was so funny. He said, I quit smoking 6 months before I got the diagnosis. And my mind told me, well, there, you just blew it. I mean, you might as well have been smoking all that time. But at the time, he said there was no way he could afford a heart surgery until that doctor came in with the diagnosis. And he's still living this day. He's still working. He's a grandfather. He and I touch base every once in a while. Butch, if you're listening, I'm giving you full credit for the story, okay? But it's true, right? You can't afford something that you need until you have no other alternatives. Now let's bring that into long-term health. Because you see, let me explain something about a diagnosis. A diagnosis like that is what you would call a negative, how should I put it? Negative, not negative reinforcement, but a negative encouragement. That sounds like a double negative, but let me explain. Negative motivation. There we go. Negative motivation. A diagnosis like that will motivate you to do whatever it takes in the moment to get the job done. You can't afford a heart surgery until death is the only alternative to the heart surgery, right? We all have those types of diagnoses on the horizon if we don't take care of ourselves. But yet, until we reach that negative, we often don't want to do anything about it. Now, again, negative motivation is short-term, very short-term. Let me explain that. I have another friend who went through a bypass surgery, okay? I think it was triple bypass. I don't remember for sure. And right after the surgery, guess what? He was on a very strict diet, and he was doing everything by the book, portion control, fat and salt, all of the things that somebody who is recovering from heart surgery or someone who doesn't want to have another heart surgery does. Because he was scared he was going to have another one. But you know what happened over time? He lived, and he got further and further and further away from that negative motivation. And he started letting his guard down, and he started eating those things that had higher fat content. He started eating in greater quantities. He started eating in higher salt content. Now, will he have another heart surgery on the horizon? I can't answer that question. But what I'm telling you is that the precept is still true, that a negative motivation is a very short-term motivator. We have to have a better mindset. We have to have something better in our head to keep us going over the long haul. And that is a positive motivation. Finding something that is positive in your life that you want to motivate towards, that you want to achieve, that you want to do. People who want to complete a 5K or a marathon or a half marathon have a positive motivation for doing that. And they will put in the work, and they will do the running, and they will watch their diet, and they will do all the things they need to do because they want to achieve that goal. And it is a positive motivational goal. Now let's get to health in my own personal life. I am a fat boy in a skinny boy's body. Okay. As a matter of fact, my favorite meals were pizza, chicken strips, French fries, gravy on the fries if available, and maybe a sweet here and there. Okay? If it was fried, it was mine. You know what I mean? It needs to be baptized in oil. But here's the thing. That was putting me on a path of destruction. That was putting me down a path of not just obesity, which I was obese, 325 pounds by any stretch of imagination, even if you're 7 foot tall, is obese. So the threat of losing my life to my disease, yeah, it's disease, was not enough to keep me from continuing that habit. Then, after I got my numbers back, which was a negative motivator, I found out I was going to be a grandfather. Positive motivator. I wanted to be the type of grandfather that my father was to my kids. And I remember my dad playing basketball on Saturdays with my boys. I remember my dad taking my boys bowling on Saturdays. I remember him being an active part of their life because he had good health. And I want to be that kind of grandfather to my grandkids. Positive motivator. And so as I started looking at things, and I knew that becoming a grandfather was on the horizon, we had not gotten the information yet, but I knew it was coming. I said, you know what? If I'm going to be the type of grandfather that I want to be, I've got to get my numbers right. If I want to be 50 years old and in good health, I've got to work on this. And I was blessed to have a health coach in my wife and a health coaching team in our organization. I was blessed to have a community that cheered me along. I was blessed to have a simple process to follow, something that didn't require a lot of thought, but I still had to do the work. I still had to have the motivation each and every day to continue down the path. And so that's what I did. I continued down the path each and every day, and I got traction. The number on the scale started dropping. The pills that I started taking started getting smaller and less frequency. The numbers that I could check were getting better. And then when I went to the doctor, those numbers were getting better. And I was getting that positive motivation, and my mindset was continuing to be the right thing. And as that happened, I got momentum. And momentum is what you're really going after. You want that momentum to continue down the path. Now, let me add something to you. As a certified health coach, I have counseled with many people that are wanting to get their health right. My wife and I are co-coaches. We're part of team coaching within our organization. And I can't tell you how many people we have talked to that the first thing out of their mouth is what they're not going to do. I'm not going to eat soy. I don't like soy. I'm not going to eat vegetables. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this. Oh, is that processed? Oh, I get it. Blah, 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 blah. When you start off with all the things you're not going to do, then your mindset's not ready. You're not ready to do whatever it takes to achieve your goal. Do you think when somebody hires a skills coach, do you think Tiger Woods tells his swing coach, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hold my hands that way. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that workout. I'm not going to go and lift that kind of weight. No. No. He's like, I want my swing to be better. I want my scores to be lower. I want to make lots of wins and in turn take care of me and my family with the winnings, because this is my vocation to play golf. I will do what you tell me to do. But we don't want to do that as individuals. We are Americans, for crying out loud, and we have freedoms to do whatever we want to do. Yes, you do. But you also have the freedom to place yourself under the authority of somebody else who has your best interest at heart. Think about that for a minute. You have the freedom to place yourself under the authority of someone who has your best interest at heart. And that's what I had to do. I had to be willing to eat vegetables. I had to be willing to give up fried food. One of my jokes in Sunday school a few months back was I didn't think I was still a Christian because I hadn't had fried chicken in over a year. Those of you in Christian circles know that every potluck dinner has at least a box of fried chicken from somewhere. It was funny, but it's also true. Not true that I'm not a Christian, but here's the thing. I had to get my mindset ready. I had to be right in the head to be able to give up those things which I love so much. And you know what happened over time? When I began to get traction, when I began to see results, and when that stuff began to get flushed out of my system, the cravings started going away. The desire for it started going away. Now, if I took a big old hunk of KFC, would I want some more? I can't answer that. You know why? Because I'm not going to take a big old hunk of KFC. I'm just not going to do it because my goals, my desire, my mindset is I'm going to be around for my grandkids. And if I'm going to be around for my grandkids, if I'm going to be an active part of their life, then I'm going to do the things that I need to do to stay healthy for them and for myself. So my question to you, podcast listener, what do you got in your life that can positively motivate you to be the best version of yourself? What do you have? What is your goal that you're trying to attain? Are you trying to attain better health? I suggest you get yourself under the authority of somebody who can speak life into you and can help you along the path. Are you looking for a better business? Then I suggest you do the same thing. Be willing to subject yourself and be placed under authority of someone who's got your best interest at heart. Because those are the people that will make you a better version of yourself. Very rarely, and I can't say never, but very rarely can somebody be successful in a vacuum. They don't have all the answers. They don't have the self-motivation. Self-motivation wanes, guys. You could be super pumped on January 1st to go work out, and everybody is. Try to get to a gym on January the 1st. But by February the 1st, the gym's empty again because self-motivation doesn't last. Be the type of person you want to be. Be the type of person that you can be by getting your mind ready and then attaining the dream. Thank you for listening to this episode of the David A. Speck Podcast. Again, I encourage you to rate us and review us like it's a bunch of us. Review me on the platform of your choice. I do read them, and feel free to leave comments on YouTube or anywhere else. Follow me on my various social medias, Facebook, David A. Specht, Instagram, David A. Specht, Twitter, David A. Specht, wherever else you can find me. I'm the only David A. Specht that seems to be roaming around out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, applied knowledge is power. God bless.
Thank you for listening to the David A. Specht Show. Remember, words are meaningless without action. So don't just listen, make it happen. Catch you next time.